Hi, everybody. Sheila Keeter here. I am the teacher for inclusion, which means I have a Teachers Pay Teachers shop called Teacher for Inclusion, as well as a blog. Today, I'm excited to talk to you about the Teachers Pay Teachers conference that is happening this week. It began on Monday. Today is Wednesday, and it will be ending on Friday. So I wanted to share some of the tips and tricks and just faux pas and just little things, mistakes that speakers or presenters shared with the group. So I'm not going to do tutorials on the things that I learned, because you can watch those for yourself, or you need to watch those for yourself. I'm just going to share kind of the fun stuff. So the first thing I wanted to start off with was just a couple statistics for Teachers Pay Teachers. So this past year, 85% of teachers used a TPT resource. More digital products sold than PDFs, of course. And 2 million students tried a digital resource. Some of the commonalities that ran through the question and answer session, as well as presenters' presentations, were a couple of the following that I thought I would share. A lot of people kept saying that they were comparing their journey to other TPT sellers. I know I do this all the time. I look at people's stuff and I'm like, how will I ever get to that point? Especially elementary school teachers, because you guys are so creative and I'm secondary and I just don't have a creative bone in the aesthetic way in my body. Anyhow, they all also shared that at every Teachers Pay Teachers conference, they felt very overwhelmed because of all the things. And they said, you don't have to do all the things. In fact, if you're new, you should just be creating products and maybe taking on one thing, just one. They said everyone is on their own path and journey, and that you should just stop comparing and try to enjoy that path. Okay, so the first presenter that I listened to was Trina Deveray, and she is a podcaster, and she was talking about podcasting. And I'm just going to share the 4 or 5 myths that she shared about podcasting. First, she said if you're doing something with YouTube or you have a blog, then there really isn't much of a need for you to become a podcaster. But let's go ahead and take a look at the myths. The first one is that it takes a lot of time. And she said, yes, at first it does, but it does get a lot easier. The second one is that people think they have to be a natural storyteller. And she said, that's not true. It's a skill that you build. 3, people think that you need an audience to start a podcast, but you don't. 4, people think that you can't make money, but that's not true, because you can link your store. You can also get sponsors, and you can have a lead magnet attached to your podcast. The 5th one is that podcasting is easy. And she said, no, that's not true. It does get easier, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination easy. The second presentation or presenter that I listened to was Stephanie Sutherland. And she talked all about using pictures to attract audience. And just a tip, she said from 9 to 12, find the northernmost room in your house and use the natural sunlight for your pictures. Between 12 and later, find the southernmost room in your house and use those pictures. She basically uses foam board and natural sunlight. And she said those are the best 2 things that you can use or have on hand, and they don't cost much. Also, if you need a background to look like a student desk, at Lowe's, they have foam boards that are laminated and they look like student desks. I thought that was a kind of a cool tip or trick. The other thing is that she experimented with her pictures, videos, and collages on Pinterest, and she found that her pictures did 50% better than the other 2. All right. Now I'm going to move on to pricing faux pas. There's 8 of them. The first one is do not wait until the last minute to set your price. I think we talked a little bit in the last video about how when you get to that end, that finish line, and you're almost there, you are like done. And so she said, don't wait until the last minute to just kind of slap a price on there. 2, don't raise your prices just because. 3, stop feeling like you're taking advantage of your customers. You are saving them money, time, energy, and everything else. So you're trading a service for money they're happy to pay for. 4 is that don't put your prices really low or try to be the lowest price, because then people will think, they automatically think there's something wrong with your product. 5, don't set your prices based on how much time it took you to create the product. I believe you can set your price based on how much time it would have taken them to create a product. So like if you do a month worth of lessons, that's definitely something you take into consideration. But if you create one digital lesson and it took you 2 weeks and they can only use it for one lesson, then it makes sense that you can't charge based on that. 6, if I lower my price, it will reduce my profit. That's not true. If your prices are overpriced, then you can end up hurting yourself and losing money. So don't put your prices too high. 7, having a one-size-fits-all strategy. So don't just set all your prices at one cost. And 8, setting and forgetting. Make sure you go back and look at those old resources and see if they're outdated, so on and so forth, and either change and update them or change the price. She said a really good way to price your items is to compare yourself to what else is out there. Look around, see what the quality is, which another one is if they're research-based, and make sure you put research-based on there. If they have a digital option as well as a PDF option, then you can price higher. All right, the next one was Carrie Tracy, and she does video marketing, and she talked about short form content versus long form content. And short form content is anything that's 2 minutes or less. So things that you do on Instagram, and some tips that she gave, because I never know what to do on Instagram. I have an account, I've built it up to about 600 followers, and I don't know what to do with it. So she gave some really simple tips. So give some teaching tips, give a class tour, talk about your favorite book, tell a funny story. Okay, so just very simple things like that. You can also use videos for your previews, and Canva is a great resource to use to add different kinds of effects, and you can save it as a GIF. And upload it as a video to your preview. You can upload to your PowerPoint presentation products. You cannot upload a video preview to Google Slides. They need to update that. They haven't done it yet. They probably will. Okay, and then she talked about long form content. And she said that these are things like courses, webinars, and they're pre-recordings. And she said that it took her a year before she could do anything live like Facebook Lives because it made her so nervous. But after 1 year of using video, she was able to go full-time TPT. Couple fun facts: she uses cloth in her backgrounds as a backdrop. She also uses wallpaper samples. So they come in these squares and you just peel them off and put them on the wall, and they don't stick. They just peel right off. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then she also uses a pegboard because you can stick pegs in them and build like little shelves and put things on them. So that was kind of nice. The next presenter that I listened to was Sonam Shahani. And she talked about social justice. And what I liked about this is that she talked about how you teach kids how to think, not what to think. So a lot of people scare away from social justice because they think it's about politics and that you need to get political. It's not about politics. In fact, your students shouldn't even know what party that you come from unless you teach it's a little hard to avoid if you teach government or something, but really it's not about politics. She gave a simple example. So if you're looking at Goldilocks and the Three Bears, instead of looking at it from the perspective of Goldilocks, you look at it from the perspective of the Three Bears. So looking through another lens and other people's perspectives. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the teachingfortolerance.org website has changed to the learningforjustice.org website. All right, the next person that was really interesting was Cindy Martin, and she talked about trends. And she goes into Google and looks at the Google trends. She looks in education. It's at trends.google.com. Again, that's trends.google.com. She looks up education. When she finds a trend, she'll put it in Google search, the Google search bar, and she'll hit news, and that will tell her what is happening with a particular trend. And one of fun fact, worksheets are trending right now over Google Docs, which I'm not surprised about. Worksheets are trending, Google Docs are next, and then boom cards. Okay. The next person I listened to was Jan Smith, and she's talked about research-based products. Basically, research-based products are research-based practices that have been proven to be effective for students. So we know that collaborative discussion is effective for student learning. So a product that you could create based on that research-based practice is a Socratic seminar or a philosophical chairs collaborative discussion. So she said to make sure that if you are doing research-based products, that you write that on your product because you can make more money and grow a reputation based on that. The place where you can find research-based information is NCTE for English, that's NCTE for English, NSTA for science, and NCTM for math. Okay, then the group of presenters were asked as a collective what they would do different if they had to go back and start over again. One person said not to use Microsoft Word. That's one I always hear. One said don't throw money at ads. One suggested make sure you're doing bundles. One suggested that you make sure you align to standards, stop comparing, schedule time to work, and put your phone away and stop looking at Instagram. A lot of people talked about how depressing it was to look at some of these amazing sellers' products. And I'm sitting there looking at these people going, but you're the trendsetters. You're the ones that are really successful. Anyhow, so I guess a lot of people feel the same way. Today was a lot of looking at PowerPoint tips, Google Slides tips, a lot of tech stuff. But we did hear from John Avery as the keynote speaker this morning, and he talked about his journey. And basically, he started off by mimicking a lot of other teachers, and it ended up just not working for him. It kind of just fell apart, and he ended up getting rid of all of the products in his store. So now he has 8 products. He's a principal. And his advice was be honest with yourself about how much time you have for resource creation and stick to that. 2, evaluate your strengths and play off of those. 3, it's okay not to have a finished product. It's okay. Let your creative journey take its own course. 4, don't measure yourself with someone else's ruler. And 5, slow down. The other keynote speaker who spoke yesterday morning was Kristen Rivera, and she gave a really authentic, heartfelt presentation. And it's not my story to tell, so I'm not going to tell her story, but I will leave you today with her final thought. And that was, do not let all the noise drown out your inner voice. You do not need to do everything to be successful. You have the answers. All you have to do is listen. Thank you so much, friends, for listening to me today. I hope you gathered some information from this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.